It was stainless steel, not a window in sight, and smelled like pure bleach. Her eyes were so wide. It was so foreign to her. Her feet were on this weird ground, and she's in this cage. And that's where I was like, I can't do this. These animals are giving us so much, and we owe them more than this. I got to meet, I think, 30 of my readers, and those 30 people were like so much bigger than 24,000, 25. To have someone sit across from you and look you in the eye and have that kind of connection, we need to hang on to that and to amplify that over some dinky little heart on a screen. We have this sort of language in our culture where we say, like, we've healed. You don't heal. My heart will be broken for the rest of my life. And I accept that. And that break is where my daughter lives. I think we're often taught we're happy, we're sad, things are good, things are bad, and that's not true. It's all intermeshed, and that's the truth of it.
Welcome to the Market Gardener Podcast, where we believe that small-scale farming is changing the world. Join us for insightful conversations with people who are working to build a better future. A future with less mass production and more production by the masses. The revolution is in the field. Let's get digging. This episode is brought to you by our friends at the Real Organic Project, a farmer-led movement working to reclaim what organic really means. Friends, you know that the USDA organic label was once powerful, but let's be honest, today it doesn't always stand for soil-grown food or pastured animals. That's why I love what the Real Organic Project is doing. They've created a free, farmer-driven add-on certification that protects the true value of organic farming. They already certify over 1,000 farms across North America, and they bring together growers who believe in healthy soil, real food, and integrity. Check them out at realorganicproject.org and don't miss their really cool and really insightful Real Organic podcast with amazing voices like Elliot Coleman, Vandana Shiva, and yes, me too. Thanks guys for supporting the podcast. Let's unite, let's come together, and let's stop the co-opting of organic. Tara.
Yes.
I'm so happy, we're so happy that you're here. It's really rare that I read someone before I actually kind of meet them. And this week, both Chris and I had a homework to read your book. I read the first 2 chapters. And
I read it. I finished this morning.
And I'm looking forward to the rest. I'm excited. And I'm new to Substack. I didn't know what it was, but I love short stories.
Yeah,
I love short stories.
Me too.
I love how they're witty. I love when you plunge into them and you don't know where you're ending, and then you live a lot of emotions, and then you end up in places that you're like, oh my God, did we just go there? And I have to say that the first 2 chapters of your book, like, I fell in love with the book, and I think I fell a little bit in love with you. So I'm super happy that we're meeting today, and thank you for coming to the podcast.
I am honored to be here, really, and excited to be here. So, and thank you for saying that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And the book is called Radiance of the Ordinary, for those
A
listening.
must read, everyone. If you're listening to this podcast, this is a must read book, because thank God it's not a farming book about how to farm. It's about life on the farm with everything that's involved, and the beauty, the magic, also the hardships. It's truly like a book that I really liked from the first read.
Oh, thank you.
I have to say.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Tara, you are a homesteader, right? A farmer, or could we say that at the moment? Would you?
I would say that. Yeah,
okay,
we raise and grow all of our own food.
But I mean, are you selling any at the time?
No, we're. Am I selling any of it? Well, no. Like
it's a friends and family club,
right?
Neighbors, yeah,
right.
Get it.
So
okay.
yeah.
Anyway, I was just setting the stage with that simple thing. And you're a writer, I think, is maybe one of the first and foremost things per relevance here.
Mm-hmm.
I want to start the conversation with a quote that jumped out at me from the book. And it's, I came to the land not knowing how it would change me. And I say that because I'm pretty sure anyone listening instantly would relate to that wholeheartedly and realize, yeah, like my life pivoted at that moment. I know personally, my life pivoted on the moment that I essentially found the land, if we're using this language. So could you speak to, I mean, it's a big question. How did the land change you? But if you could maybe hone in on a certain aspect or something of how coming to the land changed you in a way you didn't expect.
It's a big question.
I
I think for me personally, so I touch on this in my book as well, is I grew up on a corner of a wheat field from my grandparents' farm. They were Slovak immigrants, and it was a strong Slovak community in Manitoba. And our house burnt down when I was a young girl, and we moved to the city. And I think I was too young to understand what all of that meant to me. But I spent the next long while just feeling like there was something missing, I guess, in my life. And it was through meeting, we used to, when my kids were young, before we ever had our own farm, we used to get all of our food from farmers. So in the fall, we would buy like a whole side of beef, or we would buy pork or whatever. And then we would get like vegetable CSAs. And we had, like, at times we rented garden plots to grow our own vegetables because economics were tight, but food was very important to us, and supporting small farms, but just having the most nutrient-dense food we could raise our children on. So it was through that sort of conduit that I came back to farming. So, when you go to buy a side of beef, you know who your farmer is, and you go and you talk to them and you spend time on their land. And it was through going back into that I just remember being so just a sense of like, this is really, I need to be back here. And it was something that was missing, that was satiated just through being on the land. And so I started volunteering on farms, and one thing led to another. But I think for me, the biggest thing was that as a small girl, I always had this like really deep sense of unease and fear around death. And that sort of led me in my teens to become a vegetarian, because I was like horrified when I learned how animals were raised. And when I finally, through these farmers and mentors that I was so blessed to have in my life, came to understand that there was a different way, and I started understanding better the cycles of nature and how we fit into that. And my dearest and most treasured mentor, this man named Richard, who was a lifelong cattleman in Alberta, he always butchered all of his own meat, which is fine, but it's illegal to sell in Canada, which I'm sure you know. And he was so strongly principled in the morality of that he risked everything to still sell. He refused to send his meat to the abattoir. And when I first learned that, I remember being like, oh, that's really awful, and like these ridiculous. And as I came to know him, and as he like taught me, and as I participated in my first harvest, that's when everything changed for me. And I again write about this in my book, but I couldn't align this wonderful man. He was just such an incredible human being, with killing his animals, which I knew he cared so much about. And so this was a conflict in my mind. How can that be? Like, there's something that I'm missing here. And I just, I'm grateful to the younger me who had the humility to not have the answer and sum him up and be like, he doesn't get it, or he's hard, he's just a old cattleman or whatever. And to actually learn from him, because he taught me so profoundly in ways that I couldn't have experienced with words or teachings, but actually participating, just how sacred and precious our role is in the cycle of life. And that through participating in animal harvest with him, through the things that he taught me and shared with me, it just brought me to such deep gratitude for, and honestly humility that I even get to be a part of this profoundly beautiful design. And that changed me forever. Like, I'm not afraid of death anymore. That's all I talk about it all the time because I think it's such a beautiful part of life, and it helps us to really be present and aware and immersed in life. And so in that way, I feel like my life is so much richer, like just the sweetest, most, and that's my book, like the radiance of the ordinary, is because it is all just ordinary. And it's our perspective and our decision to make things, to see them for the preciousness that they are in the moment instead of, hindsight or whatever. And so in that way, it's a really long answer probably, but
No. It opens many doors, which is the purpose of a question.
Yes, and I want to open the first one if I may, is that the first chapter of your book talks about that, you coming back to the land and how that you didn't know that was missing from your life. And then you describe in the first chapter how as a teenager you go through all these steps where you're in mischief and you do all these crazy things and you're unbalanced, but this is just like that's, and then eventually leads you to the army and to the family, and eventually you have this epiphany when you realize that that's what's missing from your life since the beginning. And I was very moved by that.
oh, thank you.
Can you take us to the moment with the bison, which this pivotal moment that you just described, because it was a bison, right, in Richard's Field that was the first time.
Yeah.
I related a lot to this story because I thought a lot about when I started hunting. I became a hunter at the age of 26, I think.
Yeah.
I called it adult onset hunting because it was so
Yeah.
abnormal actually to start hunting as an adult. Most people grow into it and it's part of a culture. And I was very outside of the culture too. I was kind of suburban, not really part of it. I didn't have a truck. I had a Nissan Versa, and it seemed almost like a joke to other people in the hunting world. But what I was attracted to is how you explained how much kind of thought you put in prior. Like you thought about it for weeks or months or something like before this happened. And even when it did happen, you were continuously thinking about it. Richard didn't just do it like it was nothing. It still was meaningful to him. And I know from experience that's how it at least should be. Like it shouldn't be so easy that it's just clockwork and you don't even care.
No.
And if that's the case, then maybe you're turning something off that
Yeah.
you should try to turn back on, because you should feel something, I think,
Yeah.
and take time. And like, I can't go hunt unless I've been thinking about it for like most of the summer.
Yes.
I've actually missed a few seasons because I was too busy in the off season. I bow hunt, so I need to practice. And by the time fall comes around, I'm like, oh, I haven't even thought about this. I'm not ready. And someone's like, yeah, whatever, just go. I can't. Like, I need to be deeply entrenched in it mentally to feel like I'm giving my fullest self to the animal that I am taking.
Yeah.
And if I don't, then I feel like I cheated. Like I feel like I skipped a step. Do you relate to that?
Oh, very much, very much. And sometimes people say to me, like, it's been like 4 years we've been harvesting, and I still get like, how do you get over that? I'm like, I don't, and I hope I never do. That's a profoundly sacred moment for us. And like, I've had asked people say, like, can we come? And I'm like, no, like not, like our cattle, we just have like a herd of 13, and I know every one of them. I know their names, and I should, and I want to know their quirks and everything. And sometimes people say, don't name them, or it's better if you don't get attached. And I just think that's utter ridiculousness. Like, the most beautiful thing is the time I get to spend with them. I enjoy them. Like, I enjoy learning their personalities and seeing how they behave in a herd and all those things. And like, it's interesting to me, like what you're saying about hunting specifically. I've hunted, but my husband is definitely the hunter. Is every hunter I've ever known appreciates wildlife in ways that other people sometimes don't even notice. You see it, and it's not because it's his bloodlust, like, oh, that deer would be delicious. It's just this awe, and that you can participate in that, but it's also a heavy responsibility. And I think that, Like for us, we usually will harvest 2 beef animals every fall. And I'm thinking about that like a week or 2 weeks before. I'll just be brushing my teeth and it comes into my head and I say these little, like I'll say these little prayers to myself. I'll say, and the moment
speak to them, right?
Yes.
Say, like, don't worry.
Absolutely.
I'm not doing this because I hate you.
Yeah.
Or
no.
something like this.
And so I think that's part of our responsibility, and it is heavy, and we are grown-ups and we should be able to take that on. I don't have much sympathy for that idea that we let other people do the heavy stuff. And I remember I was with Richard one time and we were moving cattle and we were in his truck, and so they sold all their meat. It was his livelihood and had always been. And they had he was just such a skilled butcher, a beautiful butcher. So he would the animals would be shot out on the field and harvested and skinned and then brought back to the butcher shop and aged for 3 to 4 weeks there. And then he would butcher it, and he was so careful with it. Just everything was like precious and given the reverence that it deserved. But I remember this one time we were driving and he just looked at me and he said, Tara, sometimes a guy just gets tired of killing. And my heart just, because I never even stopped to consider that. Like, he's feeding families, over 100 families, and it's all on him. And we do the same thing in these massive abattoirs where some guy is killing 1,000 or 5,000 or whatever.
I feel horrible for them.
Yeah. And that is, what are we doing to that person? Like, it's easy to shut off and be like, oh, well, they don't care. They're hard. No, I don't believe that we can hold on to our humanity and be hard. And I don't think we should ever attempt to. And I think it's unjust that we ask someone to do that. We set up these like abhorrent systems, and then there's some poor cog in the wheel who's sacrificing himself in order for everyone else to get like their cheap meat or whatever it is. But yeah, I sort of went off there. I think you were asking me about the bison harvest.
No, we can go off all we want.
That's what we do here. I don't know if it's a weird question, but it's an interesting question. Do you allow yourself any space in your mind to like debate your own self on like, am I right? Am I doing the right thing? Do you ever just play out the, devil's advocate or go through a process of being like, am I right? Is anything, I don't know. I ask this because, I don't know if I think it's something that people will do out of sort of a sense of humility. Like you get a sense that you're definitely right, but you still in your mind sometimes will play the questions through and then learn to answer them and go through. I don't know. I do this because you can meet a very convicted person that, someone with a lot of conviction about their belief about animals and killing animals. Mm-hmm. And what do you do? Do you just shut them out, or do you converse? And what do you say? And do you listen to them, or do you just say, get out of here, you're wrong? And I don't know. I like play those conversations in my own head. And I wonder, maybe once a year at least, like, am I still feeling right? Am I missing something? I don't know. I'm just wondering if you ever...
I do that all the time. Yeah. I still sometimes I think, I can understand why someone would be a vegetarian. Like, I can get all that stuff, but I don't know how living like I do and understanding what I do as far as the design of life and death and life again, how I can be true to that. Yeah. But honestly, sometimes there is a draw. Like when we're harvesting a cow, that's for us, we keep them till they're 4 years old at least, right? So this is not like an 18-month-old animal I got to, kind of scooch by.
Kind of like a pet animal.
They're not. Yeah, I wouldn't say they're pets, except my old Jersey. She's like 17 or 18 this year, and she'll stay with me forever. But the other one's and I think. I don't want to do this. And then, there's the whole, like you said, that talking to yourself and the tension, for sure. Like I feel that way, but I don't know. I'm just a little ball of fluff rolling through life, and I'm trying to adhere to the design of it as honestly as I can and put my feelings and emotions over here. And yeah, but I do.
No,
I question
exactly.
myself all the time with everything. Yeah.
Yeah. Another thought on death. You write a lot about the dichotomy of things, such as the easiest one for I think anyone to understand is that, the harder the climb, kind of the sweeter the summit. After a really hard day of work, how good does that relaxation and meal feel? Versus a day when you didn't necessarily do that much and you just don't feel that great at the end of it. You're like, eh. So there's that feeling. And if that's the case, then what does death do to sweeten life? What can death offer to life to make it sweeter? I take it you've thought a lot about this. And I know you've written about it. So.
Yeah. I think it makes you, I think one of the biggest illnesses of our society is that we have turned our backs to death and we don't want to talk about it as passe, as, it's not something you bring up in polite conversation. And it's really, you can see it all around us with people that live as if they're going to live forever. They're just careless with their time and careless with their relationships, and they don't see how miraculous some little tiny thing is in front of them, even a little seashell or something. It's like time is forever. And I think that when we are very cognizant of death, not in a fearful way, not like, oh my God, I'm going to die tomorrow, I have to do that. I don't feel that way at all. I have a great deal of peace around it. But it makes me fully aware and being able to just be fully present. I don't know how we can be present if we think this just goes on forever and we're not, careful with what we have. And so it just, for me, it illuminates all of these little mundane moments of my life. Like yesterday, my daughter and I went out to eat in Montreal, and I was at her cute little apartment, and we were walking down the street, and we had our arms together, and I was just like, this is magic. Like the lights, just the lighting, and it was kind of drizzly outside, and it was just, I could feel like the weight of her arm in my arm. And if something happened tomorrow, I would remember that. I would remember how her arm felt to my arm. And that is what life really is. It's just this collection of all these little moments. And if we're so callous that we can't let them in, I think a lot of us live like lonely and sad. And there's always like the possibility in these little tiny mundane seconds to find something precious. Like even before we were here and I was sitting on the couch and I was looking at the fire and I was like, this is just gorgeous. Like the warmth of the fire and just being present with that instead of being like, all over the place.
That fireplace is the fireplace that I had in my home for 15 years, which warmth, it was the only thing that kept the house warm was that fireplace.
Beautiful.
So it has a lot of...
It has that resonance, right?
It has that vécu in it. So
beautiful.
Yeah, it's amazing that you... Well, I really think that, again, I'm looking at you through the author because I'm a writer too. So I like writing and I like that way of expressing things. But the fact that you take the time to see these things or that these things catch your attention, these small details of life, is writing a big part for you of expressing that sensitivity that you have? And can you talk to us about how writing fits into that worldview you have?
Have you ever heard that quote, how do I know what I think till I see what I say? Have you ever heard that quote?
But I like it.
Okay.
How do I know what I think until I see what I say?
That I remember reading that as a teenage girl and being like, yes, that's... My mind doesn't work the same as when I put it on paper. When I write, it clarifies for me what's jumbled up inside of me, all these feelings and thoughts and stuff. And I'll get this thought and I'll start writing and I'll be like, yes, that's what I think. I couldn't find it in there for what...
I just you're going to continue, but I had a quick interjection because what you're saying makes me think too. And that I find that a lot of people, because of so much time on social media, which is something we can talk about later, they don't actually have their own thoughts. It's like every thought is filtered through someone else that said it, and then they're just almost imagining that that's their thinking. But when you sit in like nothing but silence, you really start to come up with your own thoughts.
Right.
That aren't, I don't know. Anyway, just the idea, like, how do you know what you think unless you actually give yourself also space to think?
Yeah.
If you're only consumed, then you're only really thinking what someone else said. Anyway.
I completely agree. And I think that's terrifying, is that I wonder how many people actually do spend time in silence. Like I figure out what I'm going to write when I walk in the forest. And if I have an iPod in my ear, if I'm listening to a podcast or doing anything, I get nothing. There's nothing coming into me. But if I'm in silence, it's just like this these ideas that just form. It's like this synchronicity with things unknown, and these things come to us, and there's clarity. But I think this idea of filling up all of our time and spaces is really concerning, because you just hit the nail on the head. Like, is it what you really believe and say, or are you just repeating some other piece of information? And then soon enough, you're kind of lost to yourself. Like, who are you, unique and independent from all these other voices? And I think that's worrisome.
Do you think more people should write? And for many, it would probably just be journaling, I suppose, right? Not everyone's going to write to share and write to make books. But what do you think? Have you journaled most of your life, or do you journal or anything?
I don't.
Oh, interesting.
I don't. No.
How does it work? You sit down and you write, or? Yeah,
I just write. I've tried journaling. You know what I do? I was working on an essay, so this is kind of, but it's kind of a fun thing. It's not the same. It's not to the same depth, but I sit down and I write, and then I shape it, and I write, and I go like that. But there's also other things I do, like, so all summer I make my own butter for the year. So every 2 days I'm making butter. And on the jars, there's like a little sticker, and I write something that's going on that day. Like, it could be like,
oh, so there's journaling.
Yeah. It could be like, wasp bit my bum ×2, or like, like something that happened that day. And there's usually like 6 or 8 jars, and then they all have like a little note on them. And it's such a joy just to have like a little note, like had the first season's carrot, and it was like so sweet, like just something like that.
Yeah, first peepers.
Yeah, exactly. And then in the winter, as I'm pulling out these butter, I like look at what was happening on the day I made it, and I feel like it's kind of like an infusion in the food, like barn swallows had their babies. And that little prompt is just enough to put me back into that moment. And now I'm not just eating my summer butter, which is lovely. I'm eating the summer butter from the day that the, first little barn swallows appeared. So I think those little things also help me to be perceptive to what's going around on at the time, and be really appreciative of it, because as I'm writing it out. So it's not a journal per se, of course it's not.
But it's an experience that comes with journaling.
Yeah.
So that's something that I've actually started over a year and a half ago, journaling. And I would say it's quite life-changing, to be honest. And a big part of that is recognizing you look back and you're like, oh my God, you would forget 90% of the things that happened. And anyway, you were.
Well, journaling, when we're saying journaling, what are we talking about? Journaling is talking about in your head what's going on, writing it down? Or
writing daily in any fashion and you're somehow, writing about the time that you're living in, whether it's something that happened. You're writing about your day, you're writing about what you're thinking about.
Are you crafting a story?
It's up to you. I mean, that's the thing. Journaling can mean a lot of things to different people. I like to track little things, like how many pages I read. It's written every single day of what book. I know what books I read every single month.
Yeah.
I know the weather, and I know what we ate.
Yeah.
And not in there's not a calorie type of thing. It's just like we circle it when we grew it. We underline it when it's local.
Yeah.
And then we just have this, and it's all on one page, and it's like this snapshot. You look, you're like, wow, look at, man, I don't know. And it just, there's so much joy, and you look at what you did, and then you can think about the next time. You're like, you know what? We didn't have enough of that in August, and I want to have more of that. It's a beautiful
note-taking.
It's note-taking.
Yeah.
I write every day.
Nice.
I write every day for 2 hours.
Wow.
So, and for me, because I know that it's a skill that
Yeah.
once you get into it, it's like if you're renovating your home or building a house, like it's not your job to do this. It takes a while for you to get into the groove.
Yeah.
But I do resonate a lot what you said. For me, writing clears my mind about what I think about that.
Mm-hmm.
And, Chris and I, we do a lot of YouTubes together. And for me, when I can write all of this down beforehand, then when we're filming together, I'm clear on how I see that.
Yeah.
But if I haven't written it down, I'm all over I'm confused. I'm not sure about this. This is, what do I think? I don't really know what I think about that.
Yeah.
So writing helps me, understand it.
Yeah, I'm the exact same way. There's just too much going on in there. Maybe it's just a little chink in my thing, but I need to write things down. And even like during a day, like the structure of a day, I have things written down in like time blocks, and it just helps me to be like, I can totally be here for the next 2 hours because I'm supposed to be here for the next 2 hours. And then from there, like I am totally immersed in something else. I don't have to have this reel in my head saying, okay, but you've still got this and this and this. And inevitably I'll forget 2 of them. And then I'm kind of like scattered. I just find for me, like paper is the structure that I need. So
can you share with the listeners Substack, what it is, how you got into that, what happened to that? Is that what led you to writing a book? And can you tell us a bit of that, how that happened?
Well, Substack, I think it started maybe 4 or 5 years ago. I might be off on that timeline. I started doing it 3 years ago, and it seems like more and more people are sort of going over to it now. But it's just an online platform, and you can have paid subscribers or free subscribers. You can make everything you write either free or paid. And it just sends everything out for you. It handles all the commerce as far as people becoming paid. You can put up an essay and just do paywalls or not paywalls. So it's a really great way for a writer to be able to share. You can I know people who have put a whole novel on Substack, but they just release it every week or every 2 weeks. They'll release a chapter. So that's one way of doing it. And then
a TV show.
Yeah, basically. And another way of doing it is just, having an essay, whatever your format is going to be every week, every 2 weeks, whatever it's going to be.
And then you had people started to follow you.
Yeah. So I had like a blog before I ever had Substack. And so I moved over to Substack on the advice of a friend of mine who self-publishes books. She's a nutritionist, and she does very, very well for herself. And she really encouraged me to move over there. And it was quite new then. There was hardly anybody on there. And so I just thought, well, I might as well take a chance. And then my subscriber base continued to grow, and Substack itself became more well-known. And so it's actually how my publisher found me. So when I wrote my book, I didn't even have to go look for a publisher. I didn't have to get an agent. I didn't have to do any of that.
They came to you.
They came to me, which was really a gift. So especially now that I know more about how that whole thing works.
Yeah,
so,
it's a process.
Yeah. So, so I think now it's sort of that double-edged sword, right? It's like the online world, how much do you want to be in it? But then there's also a lot of good things that come out of that as far as like getting your name out there. Like, how do you do that without, in the system that we're in now, where they want to see, like these publishers, they're like, what is your readership base? Like, what is your social media? How many people are following you on social media?
It's part of you becoming an author.
Exactly.
When they sign you up, they look at that.
Yeah, we can't just have someone that comes out of nowhere. They need an existing.
Well, unless the book is like,
right.
So unless you're like Nirvana coming up with
right.
Sure.
For your first album.
So are we going to get the Jam Substack soon? Is that what's going on?
No, but I like this part because how do you I didn't know from your story if that's how you built your following, if that was because also there's a lot of authors, Chris, that they want to share their stories.
Yep.
And they don't want to wait 2 years to publish a book, and then they want to have rapid response, a bit like what we're doing with YouTube.
Yeah, and I think that's what
like,
Substack is kind of like YouTube for writers, but you can monetize it a bit more easily than just ad revenue.
Yeah,
'Cause you're literally you can subscribers.
Yeah, and that I feel like that's changed over the last few years. I feel like Substack has gotten more saturated, so there's more people coming, and
Of course,
so
now anyone could just start just like on YouTube and
for
other
sure,
places. Then,
for sure. So there's a lot. You know, there has to be people there that are sort of loyal and really want to support you in what you're doing because there's so many voices, and so I mean, it's helpful. People know who you are and people know what you're up to and what you're doing. And so when you start, you're not just a writer coming out of nowhere with, you know, trying to get some traction. And I know there's a lot of people that are just starting out and don't have any, you know, they haven't put in those years of slog. And I think Substack can be a hard place to start because of the numbers that are there now. So I guess it's just one of the, you know, it's the reality of where we are in the world today, where if people don't have some sort of familiarity with you, you know, from years of the work that you've already done that you bring with you, it's not impossible by any means. It's just, it's going to take more than...
It's two ways though, because, you know, reading a good story, like a really good story, like the first two stories I read from your book, like where and how you have access to that. Like YouTube is interesting, and I wouldn't say YouTube. You know, I don't want to say anything bad about YouTube because Chris and I
we can try.
we're involved in it. But like, there's nothing like sitting down and reading a nice story.
Yeah,
I agree too.
It's the best.
Yeah,
it's just, and it's different.
It's different.
Reading is different than watching.
Is.
I mean, they're both great in their own ways, but reading's got a special place.
I think when we read something, like you, all three of us could sit down and read the same story. And then if I said to you, okay, Chris, like, what did that living room look like? You know, even though the setting is laid out for us, what you see, what I see is so different, and how you interpret it, and the sound of the woman's voice in my mind and to you and it allows us like that space to co-create when we read. When we're given video, it's like, this is it, right? Like, this is how to see it. This is what to see. I can't say, turn the camera that way. I want to see that little animal running on the corner. Like, you have to take what you're given, and we've all seen it the same. We can interpret it differently, maybe a little bit, but we lose that part of our imaginations of creation that I think are so important, especially in the world today. And now with AI stuff coming out, like, will I even know that's real, what you've just shown me, or is that just a
probably
computer?
Not.
Yeah,
probably
and
not
that's
real.
disturbing.
And books too.
Yes,
like there will just be a slew of books, 100% written just by AI, just like spewed it out.
Well, Substack actually sent. Yeah, I think it's over 60 or 70%. It's a minimum 60% of their writers have admitted to using AI. And they're just sort of like, okay, well, this is the way it is now. So how do we support people doing that? And I'm like, now I'm thinking, okay, maybe I want to do a paper newsletter. Like, how do I keep pulling it back to what's real and tangible in this digital world where we're going to, I personally, anyways, I don't like the idea of thinking maybe this was written by a machine. I want the human being here. I don't want the machine. And so it's going to be an interesting next decade, I think, as we all try and navigate through these.
Yeah, but
weird...
you know, it's a good segue to what we were talking about previously. Like when we're coming back to sacredness, when we're talking about the feeling of taking a life, of being responsible for that, of being present to that, you know, that's real. And perhaps the invitation is for more people to reconnect with what's real, you know, what's really important.
Yeah, I hope so. We have to. I feel like we're in a bit of a race there. Like we either hang on to this and teach each other and remember, or it can be easily forgotten. You know, I have a good friend who's in her late 60s now. She bought her first farm at 19 for $2,500, 200 acres.
Nice.
And it was just overgrazed scrub. And she anyway, she built her own log house. She did everything with horses. And she had, this was maybe 5 years ago, she had some school kids out, and they had carrots. And she let each of the kids pull a carrot. She showed them how to pull the carrot so you don't rip off the top. You know, she had them all. And she said some of the kids got right in there. And she said, but probably 2/3 of the kids were like, the carrots are in mud.
Oh my
Ew.
God.
And they were grossed out by the carrots being in mud. And she was,
Discourage.
yeah, that's a good word. I was going to say something a little more aggressive, but she was horrified. And she said, no, you know, this is soil. This isn't mud. And she was talking to them about the life of the soil and what it does and everything. And she said that some of the kids just refused to eat it. I'm never eating a carrot again.
Oh my God. Ooh.
And that story stuck with me, because if we have children today that don't know what nature is, that don't know that we belong to nature and it belongs to us and we are an important part of it, and we're not just, pillaging and it needs to be protected from us, that we have to be active caretakers and participants in that. I don't know how you save something you don't love. I think about this quite a bit, because if you're not connected to something, what relevance is it to you?
Mm-hmm. Did you read Last Child in the Woods back in the day?
No, I don't think so.
Well, that was very much a book about the need for children to have nature experience, because otherwise they're not going to care for it. And I think most of the people in our circle understand this. I had a big past in teaching at a Waldorf school, and I had a business called Our Playful Nature, taking kids to the woods and doing experiences.
Oh, so nice.
And mostly doing parkour with trees and things like that, because I also taught parkour. But
Cool.
the whole point was about nature is not something you should passively observe. You are part of it and should take part and touch the tree, climb the tree. Don't just look at the tree. Looking's fine. Looking's good, but a lot of people, they're too much looking and too much acting as if they're not supposed to touch that. And I always felt pretty strongly about that, and that you have to take part. And playing in the woods is like numero uno, taking part. The woods can handle you. The kids are not going to destroy your forest because they break a branch.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. I love that. Yeah. But nature is not scenery. Like it's life, you know, and it's inherently a part of us. And I worry about sometimes it's like, you know, I won't get into it, but the sort of modern day ideas around how it is to be an environmentalist or take care of something by removing yourself from it, because we can't be trusted to be anything but destructive, is very worrisome messaging that kids are getting today, for sure.
Speaking of what's real and connecting to what's real, I want to read a little passage that you wrote, and then I'll ask you something about it. We had to train the calves to our udder, and we had to train Olive to let them nurse. It was all-consuming. Our patience was depleted, and still the animals demanded more. I was numb. I couldn't care less about such things. But if it were true that I couldn't care less, then why was I out there taking care of them? Those little calves in that sun-drenched room smelling of sweet baby breath and clean hay were a tether to something I didn't even know I needed tethering to. Can you give us the context of that moment? Because if someone just hears, they're like, why didn't you care? But there's something, very powerful here. And I thought it was very powerful because it's like showing the idea that by needing to care for them, it in a way like saved you in that moment. I don't know if that's the right language to use, but it's something about the real raw connection to real life, not something that where you have, or something with consequence, something where if you don't act, something bad might happen.
Right.
And how much that tethered you to real living, and like I think it helped you in that moment. So could you share?
Yeah. So that story was about our Jersey cow Olive, who had calves before and was A-okay, and had a set of twins and tried to kill them. I've seen cows behave aggressively to calves. That was not this. This was a cow hell-bent on destroying these little calves. And that happened a few short weeks after our 18-year-old daughter died. She was our youngest daughter. Her name was Mila. And I can, the most devastating thing, and devastating is not even the word, just completely crumbled my husband and I and our family, her 2 older sisters. So you can imagine how much you care about something like an ornery cow when you can barely breathe, and don't even understand why you're on this planet anymore. To lose a child is the most horrific thing that could ever happen to a parent. And after Mila had died, we had some farmer friends from our community come, because I called up one of my friends. She's a dairy farmer, and I said, I can't do this. They have to go. I don't care. I had no capacity for anything. And so I had 4 trucks pull up one day, and friends came and each loaded a few beef cows onto and took them and said, they're with us and we'll keep them until you want them back. And that was, but my one friend, the dairy farmer, said, please keep your dairy cows. And I had 3. And I was like, I don't know. And she said, just if you want to get rid of them after, I'll come and pick them up. So anyways, hence Olive. And a couple weeks after, in the middle of the night, she started bellowing, and she had these twins, and she's a horn Jersey, and she was picking them up and flinging them over her back. She was stomping them. My husband and I were out there at 3 a.m, and he's picking up these calves and running across a field with them. And I've got this electric line trying to pretend it's electrified, and she was chasing them. And I remember we got them both back into the barn. We were sure they were going to die because we had watched her trample them. And anyway, they were fine. They weren't even injured. But what ended up happening is we ended up having these 2 beautiful little heifer twins. Not that common. Maybe you know or don't know, but not that common to have 2 heifer twins. And we had brought them into the barn. And I remember after, a couple hours later, the sun was just sort of coming up and looking at them and just being like, how could you ever give me anything more, God? Like, what do you want from me? Like, I don't want to bottle feed these calves. We leave our calves with their moms, so we don't have to, we share in the milk, right? We don't take them away. And here I have twins, and I'm just, the physical depletion you feel when you are in deep grief is really something that's hard to imagine. It's
unimaginable, I would say.
Yeah, it is.
I can't.
But there was these 2 little creatures that were going to die if I didn't take care of them. And I was so angry at that, like so resentful, and just like, what more do you want from me? Like, I can't do this. And I just kept saying, I can't do this. And I'm bringing the mom up and milking her. And then I'm bottle feeding the babies and saying, I can't do this while I'm doing it. And sobbing and angry. And here's this perfect little calf with this big black nose, like coming out and wasn't injured. And I don't even understand how they could not be injured after seeing what I had seen. And so it ended up, and then the mom came up. And so this ended up being weeks of trying to introduce her again to the calves. And the moment she would see them, she'd run up to them. My husband had her on a halter trying to hold her back, and she was just hell-bent on killing them. Like, she just despised these little creatures. And all that time I'm feeding them, and I'm sitting in the barn with them. And I remember that so vividly. Like, I remember being in the barn, and then our barn's it's a humble little barn, but it was made in the built in the late 1800s. And we were in this back corner and had a bunch of hay down. And the sun's coming in through this big gaps in the boards, and the calves were in there with me, and I was sitting on a overturned bucket, and I was just like, I just spent 80% of my day just sobbing in there, just sitting in there sobbing. And they would come up and I'd give them their milk, and then I would just sit in there with them in silence. And they'd come up and they'd have this sweet little calf breath, and I could just touch them. And I don't want to make it seem like, these two little calves were some I don't want to Disneyfy that story. They did not save me. They did, but they.
Yeah, and you didn't just switch on a dime at that moment. Like, oh, now I feel great.
Not at all.
Of course.
But in retrospect, they tethered me to this world in a very soft and gentle way, in a mysterious way that I don't think a person could have done, because there was no words. It was just, there's something really mysterious to life, and we can surrender to that mystery. I don't have to know. I don't have to know. And if, I can just still, in this moment of abject grief, have something in me that's touched by something sweet and warm. And that was if I can still react to a little calf coming up and putting its nose against my chin, then there's something still here that's worth fighting for. And it felt like hope to me. There was hope. And so that's what that experience gave me. After 3 weeks, Olive decided the calves weren't so bad after all. I guess her work with me was done. And she started loving her calves, licking them all up, coming to the gate and licking them through the gate. We're like, well, maybe. And we let them out, and they started nursing off her, and it was absolutely fine after that time. But for those 3 weeks, she, I don't know. To me, that's all by design. Other people might think it's coincidence or whatever, but I like my story better, and it feels resonant with my heart. So, that was, if you can find, even in the darkest ditches, the dredges of our lives, those little moments that just feel a little bit sweet or a little bit warm, and you can recognize that as hope. It's a light, right? And maybe you're surrounded by darkness, but if you can just focus on that little light and know and have faith that there's going to be something more. Maybe we can't recognize it in the time we're in, but I guess that's what my experience, having gone through this profound grief, has really, really shown me and given me.
Very powerful. Thank you for sharing. Yeah. And it's, the hallmark of grief is that feeling of there's absolutely nothing that could make you feel okay in that moment.
No.
Everything, nothing matters.
No.
It's, and that's why that story was so, I thought, profound, is because those animals kind of forced mattering into you in a way, even if it's just momentarily, and if it's still plenty of hard time after the fact. And I don't know, I think that's powerful stuff.
Have you ever had this reflection that cows in India are sacred?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
And very sacred, and their horns, and
yeah,
they bring something into this world that only them bring. Are very connected to. I've never lived with cows. I say that, but I don't really know. I just know that they're sacred.
Mm-hmm. They're my favorite animal.
Mm-hmm.
And so that might make people think it's even weirder that we eat them, but they are my favorite animal. And so for the 4 years minimum they live with us, they will have the best life of any cow on the planet. Mm-hmm. And the fact that I I do believe that they're sacred. I believe every animal's sacred, and all of life is, but for our cows. That is why. So when we had our first farm, we used to sell grass-fed beef and heritage pork, but when we got our second farm, we just started doing it for ourselves. But the reason that we moved from there to there is because I could not stomach bringing them to the abattoir anymore. And so it's like, they're your favorite animal and you shoot them in the head. And it's like, yes, they're my favorite animal. And that's why we have to shoot them in the head when they're out on the field eating grass, not bringing them in a trailer. I'm so convicted that we have to change the way that we kill animals. I find it very, there's like on-farm slaughter. They're doing that in Alberta now. I have a good friend that does that, and it is so much more humane than what we're doing, and especially in the States too, because they're bringing animals oftentimes to federal facilities, so they're traveling for hours to get to, and our abattoirs are all shutting down, and so that's a whole story. But because of that, I just think the most humane way to kill an animal is, I leave them on the same earth that they were born on. My cattle are born under the same sky they die on. They have no idea. They're just eating or chewing their cud, and a bullet goes in their brain. And that's what Richard, my mentor, had taught me all those years ago. So
I had the experience of raising hogs on the farm and bringing them to Réfortin, the abattoir here in not too far. And it was the worst experience of my life. One of the worst experiences of my life. It just went all wrong. These beautiful pigs that I was caring for, spent this whole summer with them. And when I got there, it just didn't go right. And then we were...
In what way didn't go right?
Well, first of all, okay.
Yeah, let's go.
I didn't think I would explain that. But first of all, they were in the trailer. It was really easy for me to get them in the trailer. No problem. They just came. They loved me. And when I got there, it was my first time doing this. So he said, back up here and open the gates of the trailer. And I was like, okay, well. So, and I really made sure that that's what he meant. Open the tailgate. And then I did so. And then the two pigs just kind of went into the parking, and then they were off. And then trying to get back, they sensed it. And he ended up catching one by the ear and pulling it all the way back inside, which was, pigs when they're not.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. They tell you.
The sound that they make.
Yes.
And the other one ended up being shot in the street.
Oh, God.
Holy moly.
And for like a young me that was not prepared for any of that, it was very traumatic. Like, I was like, what just happened? Like it was like 30 minutes and it was like, oh my God. I was so not prepared.
Yeah.
And so why, I don't know why I'm sharing this, but I didn't have the stomach. Didn't have the stomach to do that again. I didn't have the stomach to do that again.
Yeah. I don't think we should have the stomach to do that.
Yeah.
And that's part of this system. I know lots of farmers that won't kill their own animals. I understand when you're selling it because legally you have to bring it to the abattoir. I understand that. But that's not why. It's because of those laws, we've moved so far away from harvesting our own animals that we've lost the skill and we've lost the courage and the taking on of that responsibility. No one, like we were just saying, you think about it. It's something you're ruminating on. You're preparing yourself for it. And sometimes you still don't even want to do it. So how easy is it and convenient that we've now got this reason we don't have to do that? But I think there's a cost to that. And, so we were in Alberta, and that's where there was people that were taking that on themselves, and now they have the on-farm slaughter, and it's still sketchy, and there's quite a few regulations, but the difference, like I went a few years ago with my friend who does this for other farms, where he's going on to a farm, and it's like, the cow's there, the cow's dead. He's got it like hung up on this rig. That's all meant, skinned, butchered, brought into the butcher, and it's hanging for 3 weeks. Like,
And it's done.
it's done. There's no loading on a trailer, animals getting out, animals like, when we had our first farm, it was a great abattoir for an abattoir. Like, it was small. They weren't screaming and yelling and whacking the animals to get them to move. I was like, this is going to be like controlled. This is going to be the way I want to do it. And at the time we were raising Highland cattle, and I said, I'm coming into where they go into the knock box, where they stun them with this gun in the head. And I remember going in there and following her through the whole way through, and going into the actual, when she came into the knock box, and she's dark red with these beautiful, majestic horns, and she's trying to turn her head to get her horns in. And my heart just stopped, and they were kind of trying to get her to move. And I said, don't, just give her a second, like, just leave her be. And it was stainless steel, not a window in sight, linoleum, and smelled like Javex. It was just like pure bleach. And she came in, and her eyes were so wide, like it was so foreign to her. Her feet were on this weird ground, and she's in this cage. And that's where I was like, I can't do this. I don't care how gentle you are or what you do or anything. It's just, we need to do a better job of this. Like, these animals are giving us so much, and we owe them more than this. More than regulations and sanitary conditions for animals that are like supposed to be, that are not well to begin with, and all the, I just don't have the, and so I believe I have to eat animal products for nutrition, and I want to be a part of the system. So then it only leaves me with one choice, and that's doing it myself.
This episode is brought to you by Felco, Swiss-made pruning tools trusted by growers since 1945. Friends, I've been using Felco pruners for my whole farming career, and let me tell you, they're the best out there by far. Their many models and size for right or left hand use allow you to find the perfect tool that feels like an extension of your hand, allowing you to work comfortably, quickly, and efficiently. And when it comes to sustainability, Felco is amazing, my friends. Every part of their pruner is replaceable, which I love. Gone are the days when you have to throw away a perfectly good tool just because one tiny part breaks. So head on to felco.com and get 10% off your next purchase with the code MARKET10. That's felco.com, promo code MARKET10. If you've been enjoying the show so far, make sure to hit the subscribe button. The subscribe button allows us to keep promoting the show. It allows us to keep inviting new guests, more diverse guests, to have these enlightened conversations. Let's keep these conversations going. Help us by subscribing to the channel. If I may, this is a really important topic. Some people will quickly brush off how too sensitive one might be regarding that. It's a fine abattoir, and like, we need to eat meat, blah, blah, blah. But going into that sensitivity is really where we all need to kind of go. Instead of trying to say, okay, just forget about it. No. Why don't you come with me and understand that these cows are very important in many ways, and how we treat them is how we treat ourselves. I think you were a vegetarian too for a while.
No.
I was for like 10 years. And, at that time, reading quotes like you're eating violence, and you are. When you're eating beef from an abattoir or hogs that are but doing it in a gentle, humane way is completely reverse, in my opinion. It's totally what we need to do.
I think I can understand brushing it off because our systems aren't giving us any alternative.
Exactly.
Right? That's the problem. And I've never, ever been a person that says, oh, I get A or B. Okay, I'll pick A. I'm like, no, BS. There's a Z, a Q, an R. Like, I believe that we have the capacity to do better. And so, okay, there's people right now who only have the choice due to their, where they live or what's accessible to them monetarily, all these different like factors. I understand that and I have empathy for that. But I also think there's people here that are meant to be here to talk about the possibility of doing something better. And that's I feel like part of why I'm here. And I think that there's not many voices that are saying, look, like this system needs to be improved. And I eat animals and we need to eat animals. It seems like people say this system's abhorrent, therefore don't eat them. Or we have to eat the animals and so we have to pretend the system doesn't exist. I think giving people the choice, I know there's more states in the US that are doing on-farm slaughter. New Zealand, it's very common. I think that having these conversations is important.
With chickens is especially on the rise.
Yeah,
especially
for sure.
like the mobile abattoirs where they come to the farm. I know that for chickens in particular, in many, I think in New Jersey, which is where I grew up.
Funny because with a chicken, I wouldn't have that same sensitivity that with a bigger animal.
Maybe not as much, but I think you'd still have plenty.
Same principle.
People often think with, particularly with hunting, that it's going to be easier if they're afraid of killing something, that it's going to start with something small. And I kind of get it, but at the same time, like killing a large animal gives you so much more food for one life.
Oh,
versus
for
like
sure.
you kill a fish and you get one meal.
Right.
Kill a deer and you have a
moose.
Yeah.
You have months of food. So it's like one life. And then, so actually, anyway, I used to think about that a lot, that actually in a way.
Are you getting some resonance in Canada with sharing that stories? In places, or do you see any?
It depends on who the person is. It's really individual.
But in terms of moving the needle towards,
this Ontario
policy of on-farm slaughtering,
Ontario, no,
you're not
really.
getting
No, I know the NFU had a subgroup that was working on it for quite a while, and there's just so much pushback. It's just and now we've had abattoir fires and all these weird things going on. And so there's, 2 years sometimes waiting list at some abattoirs. And so now people are trucking animals even further. So, just like human beings, there's, you have to know that animal under stress is releasing stress into that meat that we're going to eat. And there's, with the whole trucking situation, there's a myriad of issues around that. So I'm not sure outside of control why it is that there hasn't been much movement. Alberta is in Canada so far the leader as far as that goes. A lot of states in the US have moved over to that, but not all of them. So I'd say the needle's moving somewhat, but it seems to depend how much influence the farming community has on the government, I think.
It's a grassroots thing.
Yes, for sure.
From the top down, it's just not going to happen until the
Absolutely.
grass pushes up enough, I think.
Yeah.
Can we talk about beauty?
Okay.
And beauty and home. So, you write a lot, this idea of radiance of the ordinary, I think, is seeing beauty in the small things in many ways. And I wanted to share a quote from Ben Falk. You know Ben Falk?
I do.
I believe you do.
I sure
It's
do.
actually something that
Thank
he
you.
put on an Instagram story like 2 years ago, and I just took a shot of it because I was like, yes, I agree with you, man. And it was a picture of a beautiful wooden gate, clearly handcrafted, and he just wrote, I just want to live in a society that makes gates like this. And I suspect you deeply resonate with that. Could you share a bit about these ideas of beauty and craftsmanship and having it around you and how it contrasts so much with our modern world too? How I think many of us feel that we've lost a lot of beauty and that we are living in a world. I mean, not, when you're in nature, but when you go into suburbs and cities and you look at new homes and you're just like, man, why does nothing look at the old cities? They're beautiful. And yet these new things just feel like they're made not with beauty in mind. They're only made, I guess, with cost in mind, I think is the end game there. But anyway, can you speak to that?
Well, I think for me anyway, finding the beauty in the things around us is really a language of love in our lives. It's like beauty is the encapsulation of love. And there's a resonance to that. Like even just this room, like the boards and the wood and all of these things that were alive and still hold that vibration and that resonance, it carries through into us, whether we're aware of it or not. But I think people maybe don't understand when you walk into a room and it's all linoleum and plastics and synthetic paints and all these sorts of things, it carries on through into us. But I don't think that we've been trained to detach from that. And so we can go into a place and be like, oh, I like it here. But it's like, but why do you like it, right? You like it tangibly, and it resonates. It moves through our bones. And I think that's what, it's like a food for our spirits. And I think that it's, yesterday I have a 29-year-old daughter, and she lives in Montreal, and she just recently moved into a new apartment. And so it was the first time I got to see her apartment. And it's just, she's a young girl, she's doing her thing, but it's just like little 3-story or 4-story building. But I went in there and the windows were all like arched, and the inside was walnut doors and like walnut frames around the doors that have been left. And her apartment is a series of like rooms instead of one big room with hardwood floors and this
no open concept.
Not in
Montreal, friend. Not in Montreal.
And it was like little cubbies built into the doors that were left, like everything, in a back fire escape with this gorgeous little transom window all the way around it. And in between the rooms, these little old windows just to let light move through. Yeah. And someone said light needs to move through here. Like, that's so beautiful. Just what is your experience of living here going to be, in a little apartment? Today it would be plastic and laminate and, vinyl floors, and you would feel that. And I was in her place, and I was like, it's so good to be in this space, just this little humble apartment. Like, it's not grandiose. That's not what beauty is. It's not a mansion. It's gaudy, right? It's these spaces that hold us, and that can be outside, like you said, in nature, of course, for sure. But it can also be the things that we create. And that's why I love like old things, right? Because there was hands that made it, and someone loved it, and it lived with someone and maybe a family, and it carries through all of that energy. And then I bring it to my home, and again, I get to share in that. And then maybe one day it'll go on to someone else, and they'll get to, this accumulation of all these things instead of a factory that presses it into a shape.
The generational value that thing created. It's a unbelievable shame to imagine those things just going to garbage. Like, why?
Terrible.
Why would that ever happen? And yet it does. And like, anyway, continue.
Yeah.
The man, my partner, my business partner, whom we made the old mill restaurant, had lived 17 years in India with the gypsies.
Oh, wow.
17 years is a long time.
That is
a really long time.
To be living with gypsy people, which they don't understand life in a very different way. They're all about spirits, and intention is everything. And so we designed and built this place with his spirit. And so these doors and these windows, they're all from a 200-year-old barn that we took down, and we renovated everything, this table. Because for him, it didn't make any sense to make any of this with new things. It needed to be with old things from the area. And I was like, at the time, Chris, I was like, well, we're spending a lot of money and we're taking a lot of time to do this. But he was so right.
Yeah.
Because it does feel, homey and real, and there's something about it.
It does.
Yeah.
And it feels like you're being held.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And somehow I do feel that a farm really transpires that. Like a farm is not just like a unit. It's a farm. It has so many features that are original, that are built by time, that are built by whatever animals, these old barns, whatever. It's farm has that.
We have, so our house is 170 years old, and the farm that we have a maple bush on the corner. And the old timers in our area said, when I was a boy, every Sunday we would come there to your maple bush and have a picnic in the summertime. And still these bottles bubble up, like after the winter, you'll see these old bottles that'll come up from decades ago. And, or like we have, the rock piles just from them clearing the rock, putting it on the back of the,
have it in my woods too.
Yeah.
Piles of rocks.
And sometimes, quite a few years ago, I built an altar with these rocks. And I was thinking the whole time I'm doing it, it was such a beautiful connection. I felt like I was working with ghosts almost, because I'm handling these rocks and I'm thinking the last time human hands were on these rocks, those people are all dead, and they handled these rocks like one by one in this pile. And now I'm touching these rocks and I'm moving them into this altar. And there was just like these threads that connect us and make you realize how fleeting life is. I don't know who those people were, and no one's going to know who I was. So I better appreciate this time and do something with it, right? Because the best I'm going to get in 100 years is maybe someone will pick up a rock I did one time and say, oh, someone must have done this before.
Tara, listening to you guys are so alike in many ways.
Yeah.
The two of you?
I'm a romantic.
Very, I'm sure, Chris, you take good care of everything on the farm. And, one day we'll be...
old things.
You'll be an old timer. And you'll be like, this is you'll be...
Well, I hope to be, and that's kind of the dream.
Yeah.
I want to be that guy.
Yeah.
That the young kids in the town like, yo, there's this 90-year-old dude. You should see he's got all these things he built with wood. He built them in the 20s. I have that, and there's nothing cooler in the world to me than these
It's
old timers.
Cool. Yeah.
You know that these rock piles means that these were fields. Like these were open fields, and then this is regrowth forest.
Yep.
It's the same back home. My maple shack, my maple grove is all, trees that were growing on open fields that were planted for 150 years.
Yeah.
It's crazy to think that.
I know.
Yeah, we cleared the Northeast like crazy in the late 1800s and early 1900s.
Yeah, it's all regrowth.
So in a lot of ways, we've reforested actually quite heavily, which is cool. Some of that comes at the expense of we've outsourced a lot of the food that was grown on that land elsewhere, and you can get pretty cynical and down if you start to think too hard about it. Like, wait, is it actually all good? Like, did we just outsource the problems?
You've seen the pictures of Pinnacle?
Yeah, I have, from the 1930s aerial photos.
Yeah.
Incredible.
And it's like what's complete forest now. It even feels like mature forest. And it was fields anyway. I'm happy we've reforested a lot, and I think it's ultimately good. But yes, there's still more problems to solve in the world.
Yes, there is.
Related.
I'm happy that there's a space for us romantic farming folks to kind of giggle and laugh about the beauty of small things.
I agree. As best I figured it, our lives are ruled by what we illuminate. You wrote that on Instagram, actually.
Wow.
But I thought that was... I think about that a lot because in so many ways, I don't really like 2025 in the sense of, like, I don't really like the clothes. I don't like the cars and the houses and the way a lot of things look. And I'm talking about if I'm, like, in really crowded areas. Of course, the nature is nature.
And probably in a bad mood.
Yeah, but I don't mean to sound really negative. I just mean that, like, I'm not like in awe of all that, and I don't love it. I look at old things and I'm in awe, and I think everything's so beautiful. And so anyway, what I'm trying to say is that I often wish I try to just illuminate those things in my mind and almost like create my own little artificial reality where and I say artificial because, like, I'm just trying to focus my attention on only some things and not look at other things. And I feel like that can improve life. But of course, it can be difficult because then you have to go out into the world sometimes, and you're like, But this idea of it's really what you illuminate, I relate to that a lot, and that you can shape so much of your world by just what you pay attention to. And anyway, can you speak to that?
Well, just what you're saying, that really resonates with me because I feel like I'm always pulling myself, like, readjusting what I'm looking at or what's coming in and being like, what are we doing? This is madness, and then I have to be like, So yeah, and then sometimes you think, am I just burying my head in the sand? Am I a dreamer? Like, am I just shutting off the reality of the world?
And I want to be clear that I'm not just saying that everything was great back in the day and everything sucks.
For sure.
Because obviously I'm well aware, very, very well aware that it's probably one of the greatest times in history to be alive for me right now. And that things are pretty darn easy, pretty darn comfortable, no danger.
Peaceful.
Very peaceful. So I'm well aware of that, but I still have this feeling, this internal feeling bubbling.
That's probably
up.
why there's a lot of homesteads today.
For sure.
It's like the back to the land movement without having a farm, which is an economic unit that needs to run. A homestead is it's kind of a nice middle ground between the two.
Yeah, but it's also, I think there's that perspective. There's also the perspective that the world is going to hell in a handbasket, so we better get a homestead now because everything's about to implode. And to be honest, I've just come to the space personally anyway. I'm in my mid-50s now. It's like there is no real security physically in this world. Like at any time, the government could come say, I want to put a railroad station through your farm, get lost. And there's not a darn thing I can do about it. They could raise my taxes so much that I lose my place. It's happening to old people all around us. There's all sorts of things. And it's not something I focus on. I'm just aware that my security either has to be in my understanding of my place in this life and myself and what I can do, which is love my people, be of service to my people, speak what I feel I'm here to speak to. And that's about all I really get to control. Like there's a lot of surrender to the reality of what we can do or what we can affect in this world, right? Like I think that I also really strongly believe that you can't measure what you contribute. Like a lot of times people will be like, I mean, what could I really do? You know, I'll write a few stories. Like, what does that mean? And I think that's utter BS too, because I think each of us has a contribution to make and we all have our own art. It may look like art. It may just be a way of doing something. It may be the way that we interact with other people. It might have gifts in different ways. And that's why we're here, like to contribute that. And it's not for us to measure how big of an effect that has or not, because maybe it's just one single person. I fully believe that. I mean, I'm not just trying to be cute. I really believe that these things are important and we don't get to know. That's the big thing. Like social media lets you know, oh, you got 64 likes on that. Oh, you know, there's always this
64,
you know. But that's not life. We don't get rewarded for things most of the times, right?
Yeah.
And so if we're not in connection with that and just being able to fulfill that sense that like I've done something here for myself, I don't need you guys to tell me, you know, okay, good job. If I can't just be like, look, the deal was I got this little nudge, you should write this or you should do this. And I carried through and I did it and I put it out there. That's as far as I get to know. Like, that's it.
Is this the segue for me to talk about how I think your writing is brilliant? And now that I know you and I see how sensitive and incredible how you see things, I'm not surprised by how this translates into the writing. And that's the beauty of writing a story and writing your book and reading your book, is that you feel that. And so that's great. You know, Chris and I, in many ways, when we're doing YouTube, unfortunately, we follow like the likes and the comments and we're like, this is kind of our reward, but we never get to experience what people are actually feeling when they're looking at what we're doing. And if that was measured somehow,
we get it when we meet people and they say, I've been watching every single one. I'm like, really? I didn't think that those 10,000 people were anyone, because that's how it can feel.
Yeah, because it's just a number.
Absolutely.
And it's not 100,000.
Right.
Yeah.
And you see out someone else with 1 million, so you're like, 100,000 is not even a lot. And you're just like, 100,000 people. And yet unfortunately, we've been conditioned to think like, 100,000 is not even anyone. It's kind of crazy.
It is crazy. I had when we did our book launch, I was in North Carolina on Justin Rhodes' farm. And
I listened to that.
Okay.
You
podcast,
went on his podcast.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
listened to your podcast with him.
Oh, okay.
You're with your husband.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just, I got to meet, I think, 30 of my readers because we had to limit the numbers, right? Because it was on his farm. And those 30 people were like so much bigger than, 24,000, 25. Like,
yeah, it was for you. It was
filled
something.
you, didn't
and
it?
they were, and they were sat with me. And do you know what it meant to me when I was in this place in my life when I read this thing you wrote, and I was like, really? Wow. Right? It's like I don't ever want us to lose that. We need to hang on to that and to amplify that over some dinky little heart on a screen. Like, what does that even mean? It just falls off us. But to have someone sit across from you and look you in the eye and have that kind of connection, that's the best of us. Like, we have to figure out how to make that happen more and hang on to that.
Can we talk about social media and homesteading in particular?
Oh, brother.
I say that because I think
big topic.
I think that homesteading is a bit unique in the world of social media because of how much I think comparison happens, how much there's so much how to, but and there's just so many layers that I think, I mean, as much as there's good, of course, that can come from it, I think there's also a lot of hurt that can happen. Can you, like, where do you see the state of homesteading content on social media, and or maybe a better question is, what's been your personal journey through that? Because you've been sharing on Instagram at least for quite a few years, I believe, right?
Yeah, I started sharing when we got our first farm. So it was like over 15 years ago, 17
Early
years ago.
days.
Something.
What was your favorite filter back then? No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I think there was two.
That was that time.
But back then, it was like one still image, right?
Yeah.
And it was a story.
Yes.
And it was,
I remember that.
It was chronological. So if I'm following you, you put something today, I'm going to see it. And I'm going to, that's a nice little image, but what is he telling me about it? And now it's completely changed. And I honestly feel like I wouldn't be on there if I didn't have
Something
obligations
to promote.
right now.
Yeah.
I'm really kind of disturbed by where it's
Well,
gone.
it's becoming a marketplace.
It is a marketplace.
It's like a TV commercial.
It is. And I think it's detrimental what we're showing these, as if this is life and this is what's real without any of the other stuff. And no one wants to read the story anymore. You actually get knocked down in the algorithm if you write too much, if you don't post here. And it worries me that everybody is trying to feed this machine.
Yeah, it's this feeling that you're in a room and there's 5 million hands reaching to you trying to get your attention.
Exactly.
Be like, no, me, no, me. I'm gonna do better. I'm gonna give a better title. I'm gonna give a better hook. I'm gonna get you. I got you. And I find it completely overwhelming.
I do too. And I have seen, because I've been there for a while, all these iterations with these algorithmic changes to the point where, when I had a few thousand followers, I would have hundreds of views or even 1,000 views. And now I have over 85,000 followers and I have maybe 100, a couple hundred. Do you want to boost your post?
Exactly.
Do you want to pay to
that's
boost
the
your
game.
post? And it's unfortunate because I know a lot of people that were there back in the day there was even some older people that had been farming all their lives and had really cool, valuable information. And everyone's leaving. And the people that are remaining, it's like you said, become a marketplace.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I see that one of your posts, Instagram has changed up the algorithm again.
Yeah.
But it's two sides, friends,
Exactly,
because
it is two
also,
sides.
there's, in one way, we get to promote certain things that are dear to us. And otherwise we wouldn't have channels.
And that's fine. I think if people understand that it's a way for small businesses to market themselves, or and even if that's like, look, this is what I'm doing, but if you want to really come and see it, you have to go somewhere else to get it. Like people have to get out of the mindset that everything is here and this is what's real. Because It's just, you would never open up a magazine and see an ad for Gucci and expect that that's real. You understand, your brain understands that's marketing.
Yeah.
I think that we have to start seeing these feeds in the same way. And originally, that's not what they were marketed as. It was like this communal sort of space, but it's not.
I'm sure
that.
they knew.
Yeah.
I'm sure they knew what they were doing.
Yeah.
Facebook knew exactly.
Oh, for sure.
They were,
of course.
They were building that.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think about comparison in terms of, comparison is the thief of joy?
Yeah.
This classic phrase, especially for homesteaders. I say this because I find myself hurt by that, in the sense that no matter what you're doing on your own homestead, it seems like someone else is always making a more beautiful building. They made it more handcrafted. They did more. They raised more of their food. Or their place is more beautiful. There's always this feeling, and everyone I think understands this.
It's the same for farming.
Yeah.
It's the same for
Everyone's
farming. People are
is-
like, oh, look at JM, he's so perfect, or whatever. Who else?
Yeah. Have there ever been times where that got to you? Like, were you comparing yourself, or did it not quite happen to you? Or
I was so
Some people, I
bad
think,
about
are
that when
somewhat
I was
immune to
younger. No, when I was younger, like my 20s and 30s, everything was comparison, and it was like life was a competition sort of thing. But I don't know if it's not really age as much as just lived experience. As I'm like, okay, well, that's BS. I know that's not really happening all the time. Like, you realize, like, unless you have a team of 100 people working for you, I know for a fact that's not really happening. And life just keeps reinforcing that. And I think everyone has something to celebrate about themselves, but I don't think that I just recognize this kind of stuff for what it is, right? I know when you've got your beautiful linen dress and you're walking through the wheat field and your cows following behind you, begging to be milked amongst the buttercups,
Come on.
maybe that happened once, or it looks beautiful and it's a beautiful image, but my cow poops on me, and let's just be real. And there's beautiful moments within that too. But nobody's going to show you that, like
But it's funny, like in writing, you can beautify things where it's not disturbing. It's just okay if I'm, it. But on social media, because it's images and videos,
and it's like, because also like there's nothing inherently wrong with because that's cinema. Like, what is video making other than basically creating whatever you want in that frame? And as a filmmaker, like I've done this in my own Instagram videos that happened to make me go viral some years ago out of nowhere, and I didn't know what happened, but I actually fully took a step back from it because I didn't like, I don't know, I felt like I was creating a false thing, and I was like, I mean, I don't, there's nothing wrong, but I don't want people to think like, oh man, look at how great his life is. I want that, and I don't like, I didn't like thinking that someone was feeling that way on the other side.
But it was good cinema.
It was good cinema. So, and I see like these beautiful videos. There's a woman, Nourish HQ, I think in England. She makes beautiful videos in the linen dress and pressing the apples in her English countryside. It's glorious. But I also know I know that she like, and just the setting up the camera, walking away from it, doing your action.
Yes.
I did that.
Yeah.
And it's so much effort and work.
Oh,
and like,
unbelievable.
It's cinema.
Yeah.
But I guess the real lesson is like there needs to be a way for it to be more clear to people, like what's cinema versus what's actually trying to show reality.
For sure. No, for sure. And I think that's where, for me anyway, that's where the writing comes in. Is I get to say, here's like the follies and here's like the stuff I'm struggling with. And I can build the humanity back into those things. So I think there's people that stay on Instagram that like follow me or read the little snippets I put that, that's like everyone says, it's just the highlight reel. And I'm not going to put a video up of me like, mixing up like,
it's not your medium.
So I guess that's where I try to bring in that balance. And, but I personally am struggling with, I find it's getting harder to do that because I think that a lot of people get onto these platforms and just scroll.
Oh, that's 100% what they do.
Yeah. And so the people people have to make a choice in their own lives that they want something of more substance. And that's not, no one, I don't believe anyone can drive someone else to do that. It's just a decision they make for themselves. But
You talked about Justin Road, and I don't remember the name of his wife, but I was there. Have you had other experiences like that with the release of your book, where you went to places that are, interesting or fun, and how's that journey for you of being an author and, having a book and then being out there and going to places and share your story, and how does that work for you?
Well, that was the book release one, and then there's supposed to be smaller events throughout this year coming up. So my husband and I just recently bought a used Airstream.
That's the way to do it, Tara.
So I can't do the Airbnb thing anymore.
That's the way, Airstream.
Yeah, so we just he just drove it back from Alberta, actually. So that's like our next little part. We have our granddaughter, our daughter and her family live in Virginia. And so we go to visit our granddaughter and our daughter quite a bit. And so the Airstream comes in handy for that too.
The book was released when?
September 2nd.
Okay, so it's
pretty new.
Okay, well, can I encourage you to take the high road and to go to places and talk about it?
Okay.
Yeah, because I do feel that you have a powerful story, an important message, and a beautiful way of sharing it. And it's a commitment to be on the road and to go meet your readers and to talk about the book. But if I were in your shoes, I would do it.
Well, thank you. Okay. Yeah, it's challenging because I am a little bit, I like my quiet little life. And you really got to put yourself out there sometimes.
I understand.
Yeah, I feel the same way.
Can you tell us about your garden? Specifically,
oh dear, I don't know.
I know that your diet is very much animal based, and so I think your garden is very intentional in what you are growing and what you're also leaving out. And I just think people would be curious to hear about. And maybe it's not about right now, but even over time, you could tell us about your experiences with growing food and not animals but plants in this particular.
Well, we used to at our first farm, we had. It was just over half acre garden, but we were selling some stuff too as well. So I grew everything I could grow, everything. And now, our children are grown and gone. So it's just my husband and I. So everything shrunk. And then we just I don't do well with nightshade vegetables. So nothing horrible happens. I just get a little bit achy. So those are minimal. So that started sort of declining and stuff as well. So things like winter squash is actually a big one for us because it's a great source of carbohydrate over the winter and we just love it. I do grow potatoes. So the way it is right now, we have a fruit orchard and it's got an 8-foot high deer fence around it because we're just surrounded by forest. And so in the fruit orchard, there's apple, plum, cherry, then all berries and stuff. And then within that is another fenced off area where there's the raised beds for the things that the poultry will come and annihilate if we don't have protection. So it's just a 4-foot fence around that, and that's raised beds. And then we have some longer strips right in the fruit orchard, and that stuff has our potatoes, winter squash, things that like to sprout strawberries, and then there's a little plot just for sweet corn on the cob. So I do a lot of preserving. I do a lot of fermenting. I used to teach fermenting classes. I don't ferment as much as I used to just because there's only 2 of us. So our daughter from Montreal comes home and steals food all the time, which I'm happy.
She loves that.
So, and then we have, for the fruit that we can't grow, I'm really big and I'm always trying to be a champion of people starting food buying clubs from local farmers. I've done that even before we had our own farm. I used to do that with raw milk. And I used to, doing my illegal transactions in the back of schoolyards and stuff for that. But I really think that even if we don't have farms, that we can actively participate in small local farms. I'm very big on that and always trying to encourage people to do that. So I've always, probably for the last 30 years, been involved in starting up some sort of food buying club, whether it was like meat or CSAs, connecting like farmers with local people. And for about 15 years now, I've been doing an organic bulk fruit buying club where we have farmers in southern Ontario that we get our like peaches, nectarines, cherries, just beautiful, beautiful fruit. And we buy it in cases of 20 or 25 pounds. And then we have trucking that comes up to us where we live, about 6 hours, 7 hours away. And then we disperse it. And then so I preserve a lot of that stuff too. And so it's just whatever, whatever, I think that whatever, maybe we don't have to grow everything and do everything. We were never meant to do it all.
Community sufficiency, not self-sufficiency.
And if it's not there, it is so easy. It's within our capacity to create it. Like I mentioned earlier, my husband's 25 years in the military, so we moved every 2 years. And every time we moved, my first job was like, where's this farmer? Where's this farmer? And I would go and talk to them. It wasn't just like, oh, you sell beef, I'll get it from you. I went and talked to them. What are you doing here? And then it would be like, oh, you have, when we were in southern Ontario, I found a raw milk farmer, but they had no way to get it to anyone because it's illegal, right? And so, but there was so many people that either wanted it or needed it for their kids who were not well, and they were doing butter and they were doing yogurt. And so, well, if I'm going to pick it up, why can't I bring enough back for other people to come as well? And so, and then that way it paid for my milk because I just added $3 to each bottle and my gas was covered and my milk was covered. So I just think that within the systems that are there, we need to be inventive. And so as far as like what we're doing now, it just changes all the time based on what we need and what we're eating, what we're doing. And yeah, it works out pretty good. So
Chris, would we be ready for rapid fire? Do you have more questions?
Quite soon. I have a little bit more.
I want to know your last name.
Oh, don't make me say it. You say it.
Do you have any idea where it comes from? The lineage of it?
Yes. My father's family, they were all came from Quebec and ended up going to Saskatchewan. Back in they're very French, and then they from Saskatchewan moved to St. Boniface. I was born in St. Boniface. St. Boniface?
Yeah, St. Boniface.
St. Boniface. It's what it says on my birth certificate, not Winnipeg.
That's nice.
And my grandfather was a carpenter, and he built the house there. And they're all very French. So when I was a little girl, one of my most beautiful treasured memories is Christmas time or family gatherings, and they had a music room, and everyone would go and grab. My father has 7 siblings, and then all these aunts and uncles, and there'd be whiskey and smoking, and everyone would go at some point and grab their musical instrument, the fiddle, the guitars, and they'd all start, pounding on the ground and playing their music. And that's still, that old
French traditional music.
Yes,
yeah.
And they all spoke French, and no one spoke a word of French to me, which was so sad.
Yeah. Well, sometimes when generations they move to an area, they want their kids to
especially back then there was more letting go of past culture because they thought that actually needed to be accepted otherwise.
Yeah, exactly.
With everything, right? With our food, our traditions, our costumes, all of it.
Couture.
Yeah.
That's how
Couture.
Couture.
Yes.
And one side.
When I was a kid, I used to say Couture, and I went somewhere and I was some government Couture, and she says, Couture. Couture!
There you go. That's how you say it.
Yeah.
But it's funny, like sometimes we forget that Canada is bilingual, and it is. When you travel across Canada, you'll see a lot of French, much more than we think. You go to
especially
Yukon,
in pockets, eh?
Yeah. Places in Ontario. A lot of francophones in Ontario.
Mm-hmm. My brother-in-law is from Bonnyville in Alberta, and it's all French there.
Really?
And then a good friend of ours is from New Brunswick, and in Bathurst it's like all French there.
Canadians.
Yeah.
I like that part of it.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite plant at the moment?
Favorite plant?
That you're eating? And I don't mean that in the cheesy way. I mean like something that's been really meaningful to you in recent years, something that you've been eating a lot of, and maybe it's new in your life or just brings joy at some point during your year in a special way.
Well,
could be anything. It could be the fruit.
I will say the fruit because I'll tell you why. So these peaches that we get, the first time that I got them, so when we get them, they're picking them off it's tree ripened, so they're coming off the tree, and we get them home and we have to spread them out on the table, right? So they don't go all rotten in the box. And I remember the first time I had one of these, which was years ago now, I almost cried when I bit into that peach. I had completely forgotten what
sweet and good.
How good a good peach.
It was so intense and so sweet and dripping down my chin. And it was an absolute marvel. It was like all these little dormant cells from when I was a child at some point when I had this really wonderful peach. And it was so emblematic of what we had lost, but what is possible, like how wondrous this little peach could be. And so every summer now when those peaches come, and it's so rewarding because all these people that belong to our group, like I have all these groups underneath me that buy, and all of these people that come, when they come and pick up their peaches, they're just like, all these people from different walks of life, but they're like, oh, like in 3 days, I have to wait till it's perfectly ripe. They all know to lay it down on a cotton towel on the table and wait. And, everybody is so appreciative, and we can all, I don't know, there's something very like that summer warmed peaches, just so
Back
beautiful.
home here in Quebec, there's a thing about Ontario peaches.
Oh.
And we never get the real thing because it's always commercial. But there's a moment where we get these peaches.
Maybe I'll have to hook you up.
Well, I would.
We do have a local farm that's doing them, and actually with success. But every year is probably not going to be successful.
Yeah, and it's not going to be the same as where they have good climates.
The terroir is not.
Maybe we will have to. Maybe I'll hook you up there.
Yeah.
Get a few cases of those peaches.
That. I think oranges and peaches for me.
Yeah.
I've tasted real oranges, and it's like, oh my God, this is something else.
My husband and I went to Portugal in February, and I picked an orange off a tree, and we sat in front of the ocean eating it, and it was otherworldly. It was. I said to my husband, "I've never eaten an orange in my life," and I didn't even know it.
Yeah.
And those trees are everywhere, aren't they? They're just all over.
They're everywhere. The oranges are falling to the ground.
I was in Sicily, and it was like that. The amount of citrus trees, just everywhere you go, there's just citrus growing. What?
Find the oldest tree in Sicily and eat from that tree,
and
you'll be blessed forever.
Yeah,
let's all go right now.
It's the adventure.
Off to Sicily.
You can choose to accept the adventure.
Yes.
Rapid fire.
Rapid fire. Are you familiar with this concept we have?
Well, I'm familiar. No, go ahead.
They're just random questions. There's nothing really.
And if you're not comfortable or if you don't have the answer, you can say pass.
Yep.
Okay.
What's a book you've read many times?
East of Eden.
East of Eden.
Yeah.
Oh, we had someone else say that.
Yeah.
Really?
Tell me who's the author.
John Steinbeck.
John Steinbeck. Yeah. Oh, who was it that told us? Was it the guys from Bread Seed?
Not sure.
No, she actually mentioned The Orchard, which is a beautiful book from the 1930s.
Steinbeck is California.
Yeah.
East of Eden is he's going to California.
Mice and Men.
Salinas Valley.
Can you imagine how beautiful that was? Because I read that, and I was trying. He's talking about these valleys, and you're thinking this was paradise for sure.
Oh yeah.
Except for probably all the murders and all the bad stuff that was going on. The land was so beautiful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And he is a wizard with human nature. Like in one sentence, he can sum up all these things, and you're like, yes. So
the writing.
That's it. Oh, the writing is so profoundly wonderful. Oh, he's John Steinbeck. I get it. I'm a big that's not rapid fire, too. Terrace.
No, it's a joke that it's called rapid fire. It should be called long fire. Very long.
But I like that somebody would reintroduce the fact that it's the writing that makes it so good.
Oh, I feel that way a lot about what I read. Like I want it to be good writing.
Yeah.
I mean, I can read certain things that aren't great if they're very informative or something, but
Yeah.
Good writing is special. Good art.
Highly recommend.
Great.
What's advice you heard when you were really young, but you only appreciated much later in life?
Oh boy, that's not. I'm
Nothing coming up?
under the gun here because
That's
I'm
all right.
trying to.
Think about the angsty teenager creating mischief, being told things. You're like, screw that. And then now you're like, oh. We could always come back to it if you'd rather, or just skip it.
It's not when I was very young, but it was the biggest gift I got from being in the military, and I joined the military when I was 18, so pretty young.
That's pretty young.
Was this idea of self-discipline. I wasn't raised with that. It was sort of an outward discipline, and this idea that if we control and shape our desires for like immediate gratification, there's this bigger feeling that comes to you. You get more out of it. And so it really increased my natural confidence in myself. Like, I know I'm capable of hard things. And I think that has been a profound gift for me because I think a lot of people miss that sort of pushing themselves through really hard things and knowing, I don't know how it's going to turn out, but it'll work out. I think that we've lost a lot of opportunities for that. So for me, maybe you're like parkour is like that too in ways, right? Like you start doing something, you have no idea how to do it. You are diligent and you keep training for it, and then you achieve something that was completely foreign to you before, right?
The origin of parkour is a philosophical one. Like, people were very philosophical that started that, and it was a way of using obstacles to understand yourself, essentially. Physical obstacles. It's a way of doing that.
Yeah,
right.
I've always said the obstacle is the way.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's very true.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think we've sort of come to this place of chasing ease and pleasure. And
I think it was always there.
well, it always was there, but
it's
maybe
easier
there was,
to have
it's
the ease now.
easier. Yeah, that's right.
Hardships
we can avoid things.
are less everywhere.
It used to
Exactly.
be almost impossible to have it easy.
Yeah,
Now
you
it's
needed to be rich.
just
That was the whole
hard.
getting rich thing. The rich people, they had it. Well, they were sipping tea all day and just kind of enjoying the sun. And
Right.
Yeah. What is advice that you give to people often, if anything?
To get out of your own head and figure out what you can do in service to other people. And just to truly and honestly live out of love. Yeah.
wow.
What's something that people aren't talking about enough?
Anything of substance. That's kind of cynical, isn't it?
Yeah.
I love that.
I
love
always
that
ask,
answer.
I ask this question with this double-sided feeling of like, I also often feel like people are talking too much in a way because of we spend the time on the screen and we're blah, 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 and listening to other people talk. Anyway, it's like one of those things where it's like, yeah, we're not talking about some stuff, but we're also talking way too much. I don't know if you feel that way at all.
I do feel that way. And I think that we need to have more meaningful conversations. And I think we need to be more vulnerable with each other. Like, have the courage to just be vulnerable and be abject failures and admit to our follies and stop trying to put on some pretense for people, because I think that's the biggest thing that blocks us from connecting to one another, because you're flawed, I'm flawed, we're all flawed. And when we can let each other see our humanity, which takes courage, it allows us to connect in ways that you just can't when you're always trying to put on this great show.
But would you say that sometimes you don't want to share that with everyone?
Not everyone.
Like when the old people, they used to, what's the word for vouvoyer in English, where you would, it's like, in French we say tu, and in English you can say vous, like
proper way of talking.
proper, like you wouldn't let anyone come in too easily because
No, people have to earn that.
Yeah, it's like there's a lot of people out there.
For sure. And I think that discernment's important in life. There's people that deserve our vulnerability and people that don't. People that are not on that same plane, and that's okay. Like, we can still be kind and connect with people, but I think when we're afforded the opportunity to, really allow someone to connect with us in that way, that we should be courageous enough to meet them there. A lot of times people will, I think a lot of people, because of my story and like what I've shared, oftentimes I have people reach out to me that in their own lives, they weren't able to connect with people. And so they find something in what I've put out there. And I am honored by that, but I'm also reaching out to me through a computer screen is not what that person actually needs. They need real life connections in their life. And so I'm always, you want to meet someone and give them kindness. And I always try to do that, but I can't be the ongoing person. Like, we need to give that to each other. We need to be able to meet each other like that in the real world.
What's a nature experience in your lifetime that really sticks out to you in your mind?
I mean, there's
so many.
There's so many, but I'll share the one that I wrote about in my book because it was transcendent for me, and that was the story of the dragonflies. You won't know this because you only got to chapter 2.
I'm not done yet.
So
are you spoiling
you're getting a
here?
spoiler. Yeah. But there was after our daughter had died, my husband and I were going about the farm doing chores sort of mechanistically, and we just sort of stopped in the gravel driveway and we were giving each other a hug, and there was dragonflies were out at that time, and a couple came around us and we were hugging and crying, and another dragonfly came and another, and we were hugging and crying, and then I was aware over the sound of us, a clicking sound, and there was, I have no explanation, and I don't want to have an explanation, but there was quite literally thousands of dragonflies going around us like a cyclone. It was, and I just remembered, we stopped breathing, and I said, "What is happening?" And he was like, "What is happening?" And it was just, we were in the center of this thousands and thousands of dragonflies. I see them out often on our farm. Like, we have a very diverse farm, but that I have no answer for why that happened. And other than it was a Mila, and it was just a profound gift, and I'll obviously never ever forget that.
Did it get a smile out of you?
Oh, we were laughing and crying at the same time.
I just ask because, like, that's, to be able to smile in the midst of grief seems like its own level of, like, how does that even happen? And so that's very special.
That's what
I would think.
I think that's what the gift in understanding is, that, we have this sort of language in our culture where we say, like, we've healed. You don't heal. Like, I will never heal. My heart will be broken for the rest of my life. And I accept that. And that break is where my daughter lives. And so how do I still notice those dragonflies in, metaphorically? How am I still here for my other 2 beautiful children and this man that I love, and my grandbaby and future grandbabies? And so you have to learn to live within those dichotomies. They can exist simultaneously. And I think we're often taught we're happy, we're sad, things are good, things are bad. And that's not true. It's all intermeshed, and that's the truth of it. And learning to live within that gray, within that sort of milieu of all these different things is to me, feels honest. Anyway, for me.
If everyone's a little broken, then does broken even exist?
Nah. We're all
I often feel that way, that, like, the word heal gets overused in the sense that, like, it's like, if you're always healing, then does healing even exist? Like, it's kind of just like, no, you just are who you are. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, there's this thing going on where it's like, is it helpful to think of yourself as forever healing, or just drop the word altogether and think of it as you're just living, and part of it is there's things that are hard and sometimes they get better, but
I couldn't agree more. Absolutely.
What's a great difficult decision you've made that at the time seemed impossible, but then turned out for the best afterwards?
Holy smokes. we've had lots of those things in our lives. I think, I don't know if it's going to sound too trite, but it's probably the closest thing I can think, is making the decision. After our daughter died, I remember it was the very next day, and I was we were lying on the couch with our other 2 daughters, my husband and I and our 2 daughters. And somehow we were all in shock. And I think that shock stayed for a year, to be honest. But we made the decision. We said out loud, this is not going to destroy our family. This is not going to destroy our marriage. And we will feel everything we need to feel. We're not going to drink wine every night. We're not going to divert ourselves. We're not going to distract ourselves. We're going to let whatever pain has to come. And we did. And it was excruciating, that especially the first year. And but it was a very conscious decision that we made. And I think it's why my marriage is stronger than it's ever been. Been together for almost 30 years. And that man is he's the most beautiful person I've ever met. And, I think that, I think having done that and declaring it out loud, we didn't even know what that meant. And we didn't even know how we would do that. But it was this declaration that we had to still survive somehow through that. And I think I see what that kind of grief can do to people. And so I'd have to say that, I guess.
Final question. What is something that, what's something you're interested in that's totally different that we haven't spoken about, that might even
Fun
surprise
fact
people?
about yourself.
I love wool.
Oh, me too.
Yeah.
I miss the wool.
You two.
We need to hang out sometime.
Yeah, you guys are
I'm like,
lost souls.
I had an idea for a documentary that for a long, long time ago called Good Wool Hunting.
Oh,
And the idea would be about searching for good new wool. Because also wool, it's a lot of wool is not, it's coming from big ag. And like there's a company called Weather Wool in New Jersey, which is like a really high level wool that's being made. And it's used by military. It's used by all these hunters. It's like, it's considered like a wool for like, there's bushcrafters, there's, all these types of people. Anyway,
Have you been to Iceland?
No, but I have an Icelandic sweater found in a thrift store.
You need to go to Iceland.
Of course, I love their sweaters.
Yeah, we were in Iceland a few years ago, and we were like hiking up these mountains, and the farmers just let the sheep go, right? And they're like, they've got little spray paint markings on them or little bands on them so they know whose farm they belong to. At the end of the season, they bring them back down from the mountains. And anyway, as you know, they have a very big wool culture there, but the wool is just so beautiful. But I make, I do the old traditional rug hooking, like the traditional one, and I use wool with it. So I have like this collection of, it's just to work with it and feel it. It's it's just lovely stuff.
Greatest material there is to me.
Yeah.
Best one.
Tara, thank you for making the time to come to our podcast. Can you just take a minute to talk to us about the book, where people can get it, all the information if possible, your website, all of that?
Well, it's an absolute honor, and I love meeting you guys. And maybe when you come to Ontario sometime, if you time it right, we can have a little feast and maybe even have a peach for dessert. You are both welcome to come for a visit anytime you like. It would be an honor to have you. So the book is Radiance of the Ordinary, and you can buy it anywhere. It's, a local bookseller, Amazon, wherever you want to buy it. And it's just kind of about what we've talked about here, about the dichotomies of life, about good food and being connected to nature and creation and the relationships in our lives. And
So folks, there it is.
Slow Down Farmstead.
Slow Down
Down
Farmstead.
Farmstead.
Which I'm sure some of our listeners are already following you there.
Check it out, everyone. It was a great pleasure to have you both on the podcast today. You two soulsmate. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I sure did. I'm looking so much forward to reading the rest of the book. I rarely do this, but I highly recommend this read, even if I haven't finished it. This was an amazing first 2 chapters for me, and just meeting you just connects all the dots. I think our world needs more stories like these. They're very touching, and I was deeply touched today. So I felt it strongly. I hope you guys did. That's it for us for this week. We'll see you next time. Jay, I'm out. Hope you're enjoying the podcast. These are important conversations, and we're really excited to have them and to share them with everyone. Don't forget to subscribe to it, download the episodes, and please rate them. It makes a difference for us. We want to know what you think about these conversations. They're important. Check out the work that we do at the Market Gardener Institute. You can check out our website, themarketgardener.com. Our mission is to multiply the number of small ecological farms around the world. And we do this by offering training, online courses to new aspiring farmers, but also to seasoned growers. We're helping them take it to the next level. So you can check out the work that we do. You can follow us on social media. You can sign up to our newsletter to get a lot of freebies about gardening, farming, but also about how small-scale farming is changing the world. And that's really what we're all about, and that's really what this is all about. So again, thank you for tuning in. Super excited that you guys are on board. We are changing the world.